now dive into GS3. GS3 में आपको one of the most important thing that you have to keep in your mind is GS3 is getting very difficult day by day to score marks. So I have also suffered a lot in this paper. So my background was commerce. I used to think that I have a very good hold of economics and agriculture. So why am I not able to produce more and more marks in this paper? Um, but last year, once I got selected, I was discussing with my other peers who were scoring good in GS3. I developed two, three major ideas, I think. So one was that most of the other people were going data heavy to a 2x, 3x level. So I was reading a topper copy, and I've mentioned this in other talks also. The question was on animal husbandry, and my peer of the topper was writing the data to a level that he was quoting. Acha, this is the milk productivity in India. This is the milk productivity outside per cow. He was quoting, Acha, these are the million cows or cattle in India. These are the population as per the agri census. While I was just writing that India has the largest number of cattle, and I was very amused that I have used one fact. But the data game is going very, very intense and heavy when it comes to GS3. So if that is rewarding, we have to dive into that and take marks in that route. So you can use any good data compilation. You can watch any YouTube video also to collect some data points. Again, you have to be very specific and ensure that you collect only those data points that you are able to reproduce and remember. Sometimes you can develop patterns between data. You can compare, Acha, this industry is this much contribution, this is that much contribution. Or again, you can use active recalling, say, when you're talking about, say, economy, what is the tax to our GDP? What is the global tax to GDP? What is the capex percentage? How much has it increased? Say you're talking about tax, you can talk about income taxpayers. So when you develop again short questions, it will be easier to revise and reproduce. Other aspect in GS3 is you have to bring in schemes, examples, lot of schemes and examples, government schemes, again committees that you developed. I told you as a generic point, you have to bring here very exhaustively. Uh, Next aspect in GS3 that works is you have to go a lot more dense in terms of your answers. So a 10 marker, what we are usually, if you're getting two parts, you're say writing 5 points. But if you get time and with practice, maybe you could add a third dimension into your answer. So if the question is talking about significance of, say, renewable energy in India, this is a very generic question I have taken up, but in this you could also open additional dimension, but in short, without sacrificing on the demand of the actual question. Say, what are the challenges in terms of renewable energy? What are the solutions that we can do? In the conclusion, you can bring what are the schemes that the government is focusing upon. So in GS3 specifically, you have to open more dimensions, more data and content heavy answers you'll have to write. So you can go through my GS3 copies, you'll find that sometimes I'm writing lot more content. But when we write such content heavy answers, we end up writing very generic points. That is not a bad thing to do, but those should not come at the first place. So your first point should not be very generic. First 2, 3, 4 points should be very demand driven. They should attack the demand, whatever has been asked, and post that maybe you could prepare some generic points to fill up the space or make it look very data heavy and content heavy. And if you're adding another dimension, make sure you do not sacrifice on the actual demand, and it should be very crisp. So actual demand, sometimes you'll be explaining it, say, one and a half line. But when you're opening an additional dimension, you'll just write challenges 1, 2, 3, 4 in a very short space. Solutions 1, 2, 3. This might take even less than half a page in when you have 3 pages. So additional dimension के लिए अपना main demand को आप sacrifice मत कर देना. ठीक है. और स्पेसिफिक एरियाज शुड लुक लाइक दो स्पेसिफिक एरियाज के क्वेश्चन. जैसे पॉलिटी में वी आर राइटिंग जजमेंट्स, वी आर राइटिंग आर्टिकल्स, वी आर मेंशनिंग कमिटीज. So in economy, answer should look like an economics answer. Maybe you can make some graphs there, maybe some pie charts. maybe some diagrams which add value. Uh, in agriculture also, you can have some quotes conclusion prepared. You can have some comparison of our productivity with, say, I prepared a very basic data point. Say, agricultural rice का India में productivity था was 2.7 metric ton per hectare, and in China was 7 point something. So I just read 2.7 metric ton India, 7 is there in China. Now I can use this in multiple answers. When I'm talking about, say, impact of, say, global warming, I can use it there. I'm talking about the impact of using irrigation. I can use it there because of better irrigation they are doing, better technology they are using, because of more productivity they are being able to bring in their inputs and processing abilities. They are able to generate higher productivity. So some generic data points are very useful for you, and you can use it multiple places. uh, and you should not really go into acha, I'll make prepare say 10 graphs on agriculture and I'll do it like that. I'll search on Google, I'll go to economic survey and then prepare data. During your preparation itself, you'll get on to such facts which you can develop and make it into a graph. You need not search it very separately because it will add to your burden of remembering them. So when you're talking about, say, storage and production gap, so in India, around 300 plus metric ton of food is being produced, but our storage is around 150 metric ton. So there is this gap. Okay. So whenever we are talking about, say, storage or production, you can make a graph easily. Acha, we are preparing 300 metric ton, but our storage is only 150 metric ton. This is the gap we have to fill. Because of this, wastage is happening. Because of this, pilferage is happening. Because of this, hunger problem is not being able to solve. Our problem is very artificial in terms of our, the scarcity which we are facing. So, from your own content only, one day you just sit down and say, "Acha, this is the point." And sometimes you'll not have a comparison point to make a graph. So you search only that specific comparison point. Say you are preparing, India is focusing on defense exports. So you may have the data on current defense exports. You can compare it with the data on 2014. You can search, Acha, what was the data of exports on 2014, and then you can make a graph. It is going up. And that's how you basically improve. In terms of disaster management, again, if you can make some maps showing the vulnerable areas of that disaster, it will be very good. You need not to be very specific in that. For the disaster which have been already been asked, I think if you can prepare them well hand before, I think it would be very helpful. Otherwise, you can just mark the areas which you are thinking very vulnerable. You can use the Sendai framework to generate points. So there is a 5-step, 6-step Sendai framework. If there is a question on a disaster which you do not have very specific content, if you could use those headlines in your points, it will look to the examiner that you are applying your content very well. Uh, Security, again, same stuff, basic practices, schemes, committees you have to use. Science and tech, again, is very current specific. You should look at the themes which the UPSC has been asking. And if there are possible repetitions from those themes in this year's current affairs, you should focus more on that. And sometimes I was not really from a science background. So if there are some areas which I could not really relate to while reading it, I used to go and watch a video on YouTube for 5 minutes, 10 minutes on that topic. So that memory remained for a longer time. And I could really explain that stuff if a question comes in the exam for that. Say vaccines. So if you're not really understanding how the vaccines work, you just go and see a YouTube video for 5 minutes, and that will stay entrenched in your memory. And even if once there was a question asked on how different vaccines are working, and you could really explain it there with some diagram or stuff. Uh, GS3, I think these are the major areas. You have to make it data dense, content heavy, schemes, committees, and go aggressive while putting points in GS3 answer. GS3 paper is also very interesting because sometimes every 2 questions you are switching on a different subject. So there is a very I found it very interesting to write GS3.